This video will review the purpose of and how to complete the final performance assessment. You may want to review the video on competency rating to support the completion of this form. You can also refer to the bottom of the final performance assessment form for performance rating category descriptions and a glossary of terms. During the last week of placement, students and preceptors will set aside time to complete and discuss the final performance assessment. This form lists the competencies and performance indicators specific to the placement. A similar version of this form is used for placements in nutrition care, population health promotion, supervision, practice-based projects, and major research. All final performance assessment forms contain learning objectives related to professional practice, including professionalism and feedback, communication and collaboration, including documentation, education, written and oral communication, as well as management and leadership. The intent of this form is for students to reflect and document their learning activities and experiences in the placement, for students to document their level of performance at the end of the placement across the listed competencies, and finally, for preceptors to reflect on and document the student's level of performance, focusing on their level of performance at the end of the placement. It is expected that the student will show growth and improve skill from beginning to end of the placement. Steps in completing this form. First, the student will complete the student rating and evidence portion. This is a long form. Students, spend a few minutes every day journaling what you've learned. Add to your form regularly and don't leave completing this form until the last minute. Starting with the top of the form, acknowledge the contribution made by your preceptor to your learning in the student comment box. Enter the total number of placement hours completed on page 1 of the form. In the evidence column, document specific examples of activities and experiences you had that support the performance rating. The evidence should be concise and presented in 1 or 2 bullets. When you are documenting your evidence statements, consider that one practice activity can involve the application of several competencies and could therefore be used as evidence across multiple performance indicators. For example, conducting a nutrition assessment requires the application of several nutrition care performance indicators, as well as professional practice and communication and collaboration competencies. When you are reflecting back on your placement experience, consider all the potential competencies that you may have met through the placement activities. For example, by completing a project in population health promotion, you may have also met several performance indicators in the management and leadership domain. At the end of the evaluation form, there is a section where you can add additional performance indicators along with your performance rating and evidence that you feel that you've met during the placement activities. Reflect on your performance in the placement, focusing on the last week, and complete the student rating column using the performance rating standards. Enter not applicable as the rating for all indicators without completed evidence. Secondly, the student will submit the partially completed performance assessment form to the preceptor in the last week of placement or at a mutually agreed to time. Thirdly, the preceptor completes the assessment. The preceptor will review the evidence documented by the student. When applicable, the preceptor can advise the student regarding alternative and/or additional evidence to support the evidence for a performance rating. The preceptor will complete the preceptor rating column using the performance rating standards and considering the level of the student's performance at the end of the placement. Your rating should reflect your assessment of the student's performance. Your rating may or may not agree with the student's self-assessment rating. Preceptors may also document comments in the preceptor column box located at the end of each competency section and on the first page of the form. Comments are helpful feedback for the student and give context to the performance ratings, but are not required. Students and preceptors can type the letter corresponding to the performance level rating in the corresponding performance rating box to the document their assessment. E stands for exposure, S, supervision, M, minimal supervision, C is for competent behavior, and A is for not applicable. As you can see in this example, performance can range from exposure to competent, and some performance indicators are not relevant to the context. Set aside some time in the last week to come together and discuss the completed final performance assessment. Students, before you meet with your preceptor, reflect on the level of your performance in the placement. Where have you demonstrated improvement? What are your learning priorities moving forward to the next placement? Preceptors, discuss the completed form with the student. This is an opportunity for you to highlight the student's strengths and to identify some specific steps for them to improve their performance. Once the form and discussion are complete, the final performance assessment should be signed by the student and the preceptor. By checking the response box at the end of the form, you are verifying that the information is true and correct. The checked response box is accepted as a replacement of a handwritten signature. The signed and completed form is emailed to the Dietetic Education Coordinator. This can be done by either the student or the preceptor. Please include everyone on the email, that is the student, the preceptor, and the Dietetic Education Coordinator, so that everyone has a copy. Finally, the student will upload the completed final placement evaluation form to their OWL locker. The Dietetic Education Coordinator will review the submitted final performance assessment form. Any concerns will be directly addressed with the student and/or the preceptor. The Dietetic Education Coordinator is looking for trends in your performance assessments that indicate you're improving your dietetic skill over time and meeting all the performance indicators through your placement activities. In order to meet the program and registration requirements, students need to demonstrate competence across all performance indicators. That is to say, they need a C rating on every item. Each placement context is different, so having a C rating in the same indicator across multiple placements is important to demonstrate your overall readiness for dietetic practice. Preceptors and students are invited to contact the Dietetic Education Coordinator to discuss the assessment or at any point during the placement to discuss assessment processes or performance concerns.